Hey guys, Pastor Ramos, and this Sunday, November 13th, the Miami Dolphins defeated the Cleveland Browns in their Week 10 matchup 17 to 39. I know, didn't eclipse 40. Uh, actually, the under hit, which I advise for some people to take the over. Sorry, happens. Uh, anyways, with this win, the Miami Dolphins do improve to 7-3, heading into the bye, which is a great look for the Miami Dolphins. Top of that, they improve to being the first team in the AFC East, 7-3. Cleveland, my bad. New York Jets 6-3. Buffalo Bills 6-3. Patriots 5-4. For the Cleveland Browns, they continue to slide. Baltimore 6-3. Cincinnati 5-4. Cleveland and Pittsburgh 3-6. Now we got some highlights. Now a little bit more than usual. Sometimes I get just a scoring plays. Other times I just get, good, decent plays here and there. So just sit back and enjoy the ride. Anyways, first drive of the game, Miami Dolphins allowed a big return. Harrison Bryant scores for the Cleveland Browns. They were able to move the ball. But how about just Jeff Wilson? Just being able to, just be patient, wait for a chance for him to, you know, either break a tackle, just read the coverage and get downfield. Bradley Chubb getting half of a sack. Alec Ingold getting his first touchdown of the Dolphin. It's about time. That leaves Cedric Wilson and can't think of it, but among the mainstays of this offense, those are some of the Cedric Wilson's amongst one of the guys who hasn't really gotten to the end zone for the Miami Dolphins. After Trent Sherfield getting a touchdown, of course. Anyways, Tua was able to move the ball. Tyreek Hill was able to get separation. Nothing new. I mean, the yardage wasn't crazy as in previous games, but the defense was able to get to the ball, especially in the backfield. Loving seeing the guys get down and get sacks. And Tua was being able to move the ball with ease in the pass game. There were some moments here and there that it was a little bit tough to move the ball, but the Dolphins found a way. But the running game came along pretty well. And then when you think about it, Raheem Mostert getting that touchdown looking real nice. I love when he gets close to the end zone, he's able to make just a tiny little bit of a leap into the end zone. How about Christian Wilkins? Stopping the run, giving the Browns a little bit of a stare down. You'd love to see that. But Tua was just eating above the middle. Finding guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle above the middle, and letting the guys do the rest. Either just making a completion for the first down, or letting guys like Tyreek Hill do the rest of the work to get more yardage. And Jeff Wilson, like I said, key addition during leading into the trade deadline. But a few things to talk about this game. Now, let's talk about you know just overall team stats of this game. Miami Dolphins had more first downs than the Cleveland Browns, 20 to 29. Passing first downs, 17 for the Dolphins, 10 for the Cleveland Browns. Rushing first downs, 7 for the Browns, 11 for the Miami Dolphins. First downs from penalties, Browns had 3, Miami Dolphins had 1. Third down efficiency, 5 of 12, Miami Dolphins 6 of 11. A little bit more efficient there, but not the best. But pretty much almost at a 50 percentile, a little bit above it. Fourth down efficiency, Cleveland Browns 2 of 5, Miami Dolphins 1 of 2. That's one thing we're going to talk about in a sec. Total plays offensively, Cleveland Browns had 62, Miami Dolphins had 67. Total yardage as a team, Cleveland Browns had 297, Miami Dolphins 491. One of the better offensive games of the season. I know you can look back at the Ravens game and say probably that's one of the better ones. But I think overall, this was one of the best offensive outputting by the Miami Dolphins this season so far, aside from being able to come back in that game against the Ravens. Let's see. I don't want to go into too many individual stats. Let's look at some more team stats. Red zone attempts and Cleveland Browns went 1 of 2. Miami Dolphins 3 of 5. Penalties. Browns had 6 penalties for 52 yards. Miami Dolphins had 5 penalties for 43. Miami Dolphins forced a turnover with one of the fumbles that was shown earlier. And then times of possession, Cleveland Browns had 26 minutes, 46 seconds. Miami Dolphins had 33 minutes and 14 seconds. Without that, without the final drive, it would have honestly been pretty much dead even on in terms of the time of possession. Now let's get into some individual stats. So we have Jacoby Brissett, 22 of 35, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 3 times for a loss of 27 yards, and a lot of those sacks were in crucial moments, so not so good for the Browns. Miami Dolphins, Tua had 25 completions, 32 attempts, 285 yards. I know he didn't get to 300, which he's been hitting for the last 2 to 3 weeks, but he also had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, was not sacked a single time, so that's great to see. Skylar Thompson got a throw, and he got into the final drive. He had 1 completion for 17 yards. And then Cedric Wilson got a quarterback considered play, was sacked for a loss of 6 yards. More things to come. So, in the game preview, I mentioned if the Miami Dolphins can limit this Cleveland Browns team to under 100 rushing yards, that would be a huge win. We're close. Not far off, just 12 yards off. And individually was able to shut down Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb had 11 carries, 63 yards, a touchdown, and longest was 33 yards. Jacoby Brissett, 7 carries, 40 yards, 14 was his longest. And then Kareem Hunt, 6 carries, 9 yards, longest of 7. Overall, as a team, they had 112 yards rushing. That's a win in my books. I know I wanted to see under 100, but the way this team was able to shut down the run here and there, I know there was a few runs that was able to break out, get key first downs, but defensively was able to pretty much almost limit this Cleveland Browns team to under 100 yards, especially Nick Chubb, a guy who's been running through a lot of teams, which we'll get more into that after we go through the stats. All right, rushing, Jeff Wilson, 17 carries, 119 yards. So it was great to see him break 100. He had a touchdown, the longest of 20. Pretty good addition for the Miami Dolphins. Trade deadline, last second addition for the Miami Dolphins, and looking good. He understands the scheme 100%, and he's finding his way in this offense. And I'm really excited to see what him and the Raheem Mostert can do in the backfield. Want to see a little bit more from Alec Ingold. I understand he's a fullback, but here's what it is. Raheem Mostert, 8 carries, 65 yards, 1 touchdown, longest of 24. Savon Ahmed got some carries, 3 carries for 11 yards. Durham Smythe got a carry. So did Skylar Thompson, 3 carries, and Tua got a carry. All of those last 3 guys, no yardage, 0 yards from those 3 guys. The Durham Smythe rush should have been a first. In hindsight, not going to complain about it. You almost put 40 on a team, and you have quite the margin of victory. Not much to complain. Receiving, Donovan Peoples-Jones led the Browns with 5 receptions, 99 yards, longest of 38, which was within that first drive, if I'm not mistaken. But he had 9 targets, so he dropped 4 passes, and either 4 passes were either broken up or dropped by him. Behind him was Amari Cooper, 3 receptions, 32 yards, longest of 12 off of 3 targets. So good job by not dropping one. You upset me, Amari Cooper. Put you in over Terry McLaurin. Hopefully he doesn't go off on Monday night. Let's see. David Bell, 3 receptions, 24 yards. Nick Chubb, 8 receptions, 18 yards. Harrison Bryant, 3 receptions, 15. I'm not going to go too deep into the rest. But Farrell Brown, Kareem Hunt, and Anthony Schwartz and Dearness Johnson each got a reception. Not much yardage, less than 15 for each of those guys. Receiving, Jalen Waddle was the leading receiver for the Miami Dolphins. 4 receptions, 66 yards, longest of 29 off of 5 targets. And Trent Sherfield, very similar numbers. 4 receptions, 63 yards, 1 touchdown, longest of 27 for targets. Alec Ingold, 4 receptions, 45 yards. Longest of 17, which was his touchdown, off of 4 targets. Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions, 44 yards, a touchdown off of 6 receptions, targets. Mike Gesicki, 2 receptions, 31 yards, longest of 16 off of 3 targets. Jeff Wilson, 24 yards off of 2 receptions. Raheem Mostert, 4 receptions, 22 yards, and Cedric Wilson, 1 reception, 7 yards. It's a little bit disappointing to see Cedric Wilson not have quite the role with the Miami Dolphins, but I think they have honestly their guys set in stone. You obviously have Tyreek. You honestly have Jalen Waddle, and then in the rushing game you have Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson is coming on really well, which is really good to see. I love seeing a guy break 100 yards offensively rushing for the Miami Dolphins. Um, Trent Sherfield is getting a lot more playing time than Cedric Wilson, but Cedric Wilson is finding the field. It's tough. It's tough. The ball can only go to one player at a time, and sometimes he may be a lot of guy out. Sometimes it's just not his time to get the ball. So for the Browns, they fumbled the ball. Nick Chubb fumbled it, recovered by Xavier Howard, and then Tua fumbled. My apologies. Robert Hunt fumbled one, and Tua was able to recover it. I don't remember. That must have been in the fourth quarter, honestly. Defensively, Sion Taikiki had a total of 10 total tackles, 8 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Grant Delpit had 10 tackles, 6 total solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Deion Jones had 9 total, 3 solo tackles, half a sack, and a QB hit. Denzel Ward, 8 total, 6 solo. And then let's get into some key stats for them. Jordan Curvin, not going to say his name. 1 pass deflection. Jordan Kuhn Zyke. I butchered it. I know it. Greg Newsome II had half a sack, QB hit. Martin Emerson Jr. had a pass deflection. Let's see, do we have any more key stats? Nothing that I see there for the Browns. For the Miami Dolphins, though, Landon Roberts, 7 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 QB hit. Justin Bethel, 7 total, 5 solo, 2 pass deflections. Jerome Baker, 7 total, 4 solo, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pass deflection. Christian Wilkins, 7 total, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, 3 QB hits. Christian Wilkins was eating up that Browns offensive line, getting in the backfield. Great to see that. Zach Sealer, a tackle for a loss, 2 QB hits. And Zach Sealer, I believe, forced a fumble that Xavier Howard recovered. So good by him. Kader Kohu, 3 pass deflections. He was flying all over the field. Bradley Chubb had half a sack and 3 QB hits. Elijah Campbell had a pass deflection. Melvin Ingram had a sack, 3 QB hits. Jalen Phillips had half a sack, 2 QB hits. Those are the key stats for your Miami Dolphins. No interceptions. Kick returns. Jerome Ford had 3 returns for a total of 95 yards, longest of 48, which was the opening kickoff. Raheem Mostert, 3 returns, 60 yards, longest of 24. Punt returns. Miami Dolphins had 1 punt return for 8 yards by Cedric Wilson. Kicking, Cade York had 1 field goal and 2 extra points, totaling for 5 total points. Jason Sanders went 2 for 2 on extra points, 3 for 5 on extra points. My apologies. 2 for 2 on field goals, 3 for 5 on extra points. Saw this tweet the other day, and it essentially said Jason Sanders is either going to cost the Dolphins a playoff spot or a playoff game. I don't know what is up with Jason Sanders and why he's missing pretty much these gimme type of field goals, especially the extra points, but it's not a good look for him. So hopefully he can turn things around and, find a way to get the ball between the uprights. That'd be great. The Browns had 1 punt from Corey Bojorquez. He had 1 punt for a total of 41 yards. Miami Dolphins, 0 punts. 0 punts. Love to see that. All right. So let's talk about a few things. I touched on it a bit, but Jeff Wilson, quite the addition for the Miami Dolphins. He's been able to, establish a pretty good running game. He's been quite the, second string to Raheem Mostert. I know Raheem Mostert isn't doing anything crazy. He hasn't done much, but when you have Raheem Mostert getting you a few chunk plays, and then you have a guy like Jeff Wilson who's able to be patient, read the hole, go through it, and then on top of that, just drop his shoulder here and there, try to fight for the first down. I'd love to see that. I'm pretty sure hands also coming out of the backfield, so another plus for him. Defensively, Dolphins were able to get Jacoby Brissett, were able to limit the running game. So the way you beat this Cleveland Browns team is you force them to throw, and then on top of that, just if you can get pressure on them, bring them down. There was a few plays that Jacoby Brissett was able to withstand the pressure and get throws off and completions, but aside from that, Dolphins were in the backfield and putting a lot of pressure on, which is great to see. I believe defensively, the Miami Dolphins had 14 QB hits, which is quite a lot, honestly. Yeah. So defensively, Xavier Howard went down for a second, came back in, looking good. One of the things is corners are either gonna get caught or they're gonna get someone. And there's no in between. There's gonna be a play, 2, maybe 5 the entire game that a top tier cornerback like Xavier Howard is gonna get got, but it's a matter of the fact of what you do in that last chance that you can have to make a play, and that's what Xavier Howard did in the second half. Pretty well by him. Going into the bye, Dolphins 7-3, 4-1 at home, and on top of the AFC East. There's 2 teams currently on bye, and then the division leader, the Buffalo Bills, just dropped a game to the Minnesota Vikings, which I love it because I haven't picked in terms of the game picks. But there's other games that didn't go my way, but it is what it is. But yeah, we already went over standings. We went over the individual stats. We went over, how the Dolphins were supposed to win this game and how they ended up winning it. And, it's just Tua's looking very efficient out there. Making key throws. There's a bunch of throws that fitting it into tight spots where only pretty much his receiver can come down with it. And he's also protecting the receivers sometimes, throwing it over the middle, just throwing it a little bit low so your receiver just has to go down and just tuck for it. Protecting the receivers. Great offensive plays by Tua. And, offensive line held it together, was not really allowing any much pressure, but I think it's a give and take type of situation. Tua just being able to evade sacks. And then on top of that, just the offensive line just holding it long enough that either it allows Tua to make a play or just step up and then make a play. So that's pretty much it for this post-game review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.